Good evening. Welcome once again to this episode of It's My Turn Now, where everybody gets a chance to express your thoughts. Let us know what you're thinking about. On last week, we dealt with the subject of men being raised without a father in the home. And we're doing a part 2. We got a lot of responses to that, a lot of positive responses. And so we have a different guest on today. If you have any questions, feel free to share those questions with us. We're very transparent. And don't forget to share with someone. Let your friends, let your neighbor, let them know that It's My Turn is on the air and we're ready to receive you. What I'm going to do, let me add a link right now. I'm going to add a link. If you so desire to come on, I'm placing a link on here right now that if you want to come on, you can, all you have to do is click on the link and you can come on and give your comment and we can hear you and see you as well. So that's up to you. Or you can just type in "It's my turn now," and we'll be more than happy to take your comment. So at this time, without any further ado, I'm glad to have our guest for this week is Bishop Prentice Johnson, all the way from Tacoma, Washington. Welcome to It's My Turn Now.
It's my turn now. So
All
thank you
right,
very
you got
much,
it right.
Dr. Anthony Walden. God bless you. And
Yes.
thank you for the opportunity to come on to this show to express my opinions and things about men being raised without a father in the home.
Yeah. So you can tell us a little bit about yourself, but I'm going to say I think you are uniquely qualified because you've had a lot of experience, probably as a coach dealing with young men who have not had fathers, and so you had the opportunity to show them some discipline. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, basically, I was born in a family of 9. My father was in the Air Force. And of course, we traveled quite a bit in my early life, settled here in
Mm-hmm.
Tacoma, and he died when I was 7 years old. And so that
Wow.
left our family. My mother, he was 35 years old. My mother was 32, and she had 8
Mm-hmm.
children at that time. 8 children. I was number
8 children.
five of 8. The 5th child. The third son.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the middle child basically. So yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay. All right.
and being middle child, of course, I'm the one they look to. The older ones look to, and there was 4 years gap between myself and my oldest sibling above
Mm-hmm.
me. So we were so it's like 4 were part of the earlier life older group, and then I was the oldest of the next 4. so
Mm-hmm.
so
Right.
so I was the oldest in that aspect, but yet the youngest in the other aspect. So I'm
You,
smack in the middle, smack in the
you
middle.
in counseling, there's a theory about the middle child, but we'll say that for another program. That's a whole different subject right there. But so you've been a middle child. You felt a lot of challenges. You said.
Yes, a lot of challenges, and at that time, I was the only one, and my mother were the only ones really in church as such. So I was a middle child, but I also was a child that was always looked down on because the others were doing their thing, and I was a church boy in a sense speaking.
Okay. All right. All right.
And the key thing about when I was growing up, we had a good neighbor. One of our
Mm-hmm.
neighbors, he was a man that was a longshoreman, and he made sure that he took us to picnics. Uh, I, he took us to the events that they had, especially around Christmas time. You know, being a family of 8, we didn't have all the luxuries. My mother did not go on welfare. Not there's anything wrong with welfare, but she taught us how to work together and to work as a team. So my ethics of work ethics came from my mother at a very young age.
Okay.
So I didn't have a father in the home, but my mother kept us in church, and that's what kept us going. And in church, the pastor at that time was Bishop Curtis E. Montgomery,
All
great
right.
man, and he was a man that kind of took me under his wings. And he had 10 children, and but he
Wow.
also
10.
and the church was young. And the matter of fact, the church was just 3 years old when I came here in 19 or in, yeah, 19. That was 1963. Yeah, 63. And the church was basically 3 years old. And I was kind of like a stepchild. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up with their family, and it wasn't that was the male image I had. So I thank God for Bishop Curtis E. Montgomery. He became a
Amen.
role model, great man of God. He taught us, all the children. It was a small church. mainly families. Matter of fact, at that time, I think the majority of the families were single mothers in the
Wow.
church. So because of that, Bishop Montgomery took a very interest, and in the Bible it talks about, helping and supporting the fatherless children.
Right.
And I believe that's why Bishop Montgomery was so blessed, because he took all of us in, and with his own children, and made sure that we had a fatherly image,
Hmm.
and growing up, and all the ones that grew up under him, we all became successful
That's a
because
blessing.
of his training and teaching.
Okay. So, you said you were one of eight. Your pastor had 10. So I imagine if everybody in your church was like that, you had a pretty big church, didn't you? Everybody had, medium a number of kids in the family. What, five, six, or something like that.
Pretty much, yeah, about that time frame.
So you had a powerful Sunday school there.
Oh yeah. Well, matter of fact, we were the church.
Right.
And there was
Right.
about a good about 50 or 56 or so of us, and we all grew up together, and we all became great men and women as we grew older, because of the training, the teaching, the time that was taken. And I don't want to get emotional on this show, but really, Bishop Montgomery took time with us, and helped us. And without that type of training and teaching, I wouldn't be where I am today. I know that for a fact.
I think it's important that you say that because we need strong men in the church.
Correct.
And we need programs in the church. I'm sure there's some single mothers on here, and I'm going to do an episode for single mothers raising children, because I know there's a lot of challenges that single parents face, because there's always that temptation that, and I've heard in deal with a lot of ladies, that there's a temptation to just have a male figure in the house. Sometimes a young lady will marry a guy
Hmm.
because she just wants to have a male figure in the home, and she feels like, if I don't have that male figure in the home, then my son would not be, grow up properly as a man, as a strong man. But I think the church has responsibility. I mean, the church that I came up in, we have what they call brotherhood,
Hmm.
and brotherhood service of men. We had that one Sunday, one Friday out of the month, and we would get together and talk to. They would talk to us young men how to conduct ourselves, what we should do when we're getting married, how to take care of ourselves. And so that investment in us taught us a lot. And so you've been pastor now, if I'm not mistaken, the church that you mentioned, is that the church that you pastor?
Yes, it is. We're celebrating 64 years this year in October, and I've been here 61 of those 64 years.
Wow.
And yeah, so I grew up in the church. I never thought I'd be pastoring. I started pastoring in 2008.
Right.
Bishop Montgomery was still alive. He had went on just to do the bishop, and that's it. But
Mhm.
in 2008, and I passed in 2015, and so I had a good chance of 7 years of being with him or supporting me in that transitioning to pastor.
Okay.
But he
Tell
was
us
a
a little.
good role model. I mean, I'm telling you,
Tell,
I wish there was more men like him in the
right.
world.
That's a blessing, because you're example of that investment. Because as I was reading your bio, there was so much information. You who's who. You had academic scholars, and I know obviously we try to be humble, but it's nothing wrong with it. It's my turn now. It's the name of the program, so it's your turn now. I don't have your bio with me. Do you have a copy of the bio? I tell you what, I'm going to get a copy of that bio, because it was so impressive, and I think that sometimes statistics say that many men that were brought up without a father are doomed to be failures, or doomed to go to jail, doomed to be on drugs. And you are one of the examples of those individuals uh, that were able to be successful. So tell us a little bit about that as I go and get your bio, okay? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yes.
Or
Well,
you was history.
the bottom line is that if it wasn't for God on my side, I would not even be here today. But I've done some accolades in my life, but again, I give all glory to God. It's not boasting as a fact. But then there's a scripture in the Bible says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." And usually I use that scripture to break down, because I think a lot of times we, even as men of God, we don't talk to other young people, young men, how to conduct themselves, and we don't give them examples from our own lives. One of the things I wanted to do was sow back into what people have sold into me. What I mean by that is that Bishop Montgomery taught me some things when it comes to virtue and integrity, the things of how to conduct myself as a man. And then I'm now giving back to my community and to our church and to a society the things that I was taught. Let your light so not just shine, but so shine before God. No, before men, before men. You see, sometimes I think we're too humble to the extent that we don't let people know. When I let young people know my life and what God has done for me, it inspires them. It motivates them to the extent they said, I can do it too. So
Very
much
good.
negative in this world today. And sometimes they need that positive influence, and we don't be careful. We won't give them that positive influence because we want to be humble. Well, let your light so shine, not just shine, but so shine.
So
I'm from the
shine to
South.
the great.
Yeah, I'm from the South, Mississippi. So anytime you put so on something, that means it's greater than.
Right. I think it's important because there's some mothers that's probably watching this right here or will watch it later on, and she's wondering, what am I going to do with my child? Because we know that a mother can't be a father, but
Correct.
she can show good leadership and responsibility and teach her son. But I'm going to read this bio about you. It's on your church webpage. And it says, Prentice Vasco Johnson Sr. was born at McCord Air Force Base Hospital in Tacoma, Washington. He is a fifth of 9 children to parents Grover Cleveland, who's deceased, and Angie Mae Johnson DeBose. Shortly after his birth, the family relocated to Newton, Mississippi until he was 4 years old, and then moved back to Tacoma, Washington, where he currently resides. He graduated from Stadium High School in Tacoma, Washington, with academic honors as well as athletic achievements. He is listed in the Who's Who among the American high school students, as well as in the International Achievers of High School Students. He served as the vice president of his class, Junior Achievement Company president, and was on the All-City, All-State football and track teams. Prentice attended Pacific Lutheran University, where he obtained a BA degree in business administration in 1978 and received several honors, including Who's Who among college students in America, NAIA Little All-American Honorary Mention in football and track, and the Alumni Recognition Award for being one of the most outstanding students in Pacific Lutheran history. He also serves on the Pacific Lutheran University Alumni Board of Directors for 10 years. He received his master's degree in business administration from Capella University, summa cum laude. Amen. I get excited when I hear people say that because I prayed my way through all my degrees. In 2005, a doctorate degree in theology from Midwest Theological University. In 2016, received his PhD in leadership organizational management from Capella University in 2017. Reverend Bishop Johnson has been a member of the Greater Christ Temple Church in Tacoma, Washington since 1963 and has served as the assistant pastor under pastor of Bishop Curtis E. Montgomery for several years. He accepted the Lord at the age of 9 years old and has held numerous positions in his local church. In 1991, he received a college and was ordained into the ministry. He currently served as the pastor of the Greater Christ Temple Church in Tacoma, Washington since 2008. He was elevated to District Elder in 2010 and Suffering Bishop in November 2016. The Pacific Northwestern District Council, PNDC, of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World Incorporated. He served as the president of the men's ministry of the PNDC and the Northwestern Regional Representative of the International Men's Ministry Auxiliary of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World Incorporated. He also held previous positions in the IMMA as Assistant Secretary, and Vice President for 22 years of service. He is currently the co-founder and chancellor of the Greater Christ Temple Church Agape Bible College, established November 2017, a degree program and campus of Midwest Theological College and Midwest Theological University. Prentice retired from the Boeing Company December 31st, 2015. After 37 and a half years while at Boeing, he received several recognition and honors, including cost saving awards and leadership awards. He served as the chair of the Shared Service Group Diverse Council Engagement Team, which he founded in 2002. He was a recipient of the Global Diversity Process Improvement Award and Diversity Change Agent Award 2007, recognizing his support and creative ideas for influencing positive changes in the company workforce. In addition, he served as the president of the Boeing track team and as a member of the United States Corporate Athletic Association board of directors, where he was included in the U.S. CAA Hall of Fame in 2005 as an outstanding athlete and contributor to wellness. Now, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop right there. I could go. I could go on. I'm gonna stop right there because now somebody might say, well, "Why do you take the time to do that?" But I think we have to take time to recognize people's accomplishments. Many times we don't give people credit where credit's due until after after they're gone.
Mm.
After they're gone, I just recently had a buried my sister on Saturday, and you begin to think about all those things, And since then, I've been telling people, I love you because you just never know when's the last time you're going to see someone. And we need to encourage other people. We need to, elaborate on people's accomplishment because sometimes you hear so much criticism, so much negativity, especially when you hear someone talking about a person come on in a home without a male figure. Most of people think that's a negative thing. And you were talking about your mom did not want to go on welfare, and I know that had made extremely difficult, extremely difficult. I was in an area where I think 99% of people there were on welfare, on government assistance, and
Mm.
probably would have not made it without that.
Right.
And so there are tremendous, like I said, there are that um, so many challenges that have. What do you think your biggest challenge is coming without a father? Just share that with us.
Well, let me say this too, because when my father died at 7, I was literally angry with God. I mean, I was
Okay.
angry with God. I didn't hate God, but I was angry with him. Angry to the fact that, why take my father when there's other, and he's a good man, but why all these other fathers out there are bad? Take them, but why my father? So I went literally 40 years, didn't know I was holding that in. I mean, I didn't cry at my father's funeral. I was 7 years old. I didn't know what was going on. I was angry with God. And because of that anger, I kept it in. And so my biggest challenge was struggling with myself, and that's why I say these young men that don't have fathers in the home, there's a lot of struggles there. And sometimes you got to be able to break that. I've been able to establish programs for these young men and really get down to what their needs are.
Mhm.
And sometimes men, whether they're young or old, don't like to talk about themselves too much.
Right.
The ego thing that sits in. That's just the way God made us, I guess. But
Right.
but I've been able to by my experiences in my life, I've been able to break down and to help young men. And I'm telling you, I mean, I thank God that somebody took the time out to help
Right.
me. To help
Right.
me.
And
I'm serious.
you just never know who's going because it just takes a small investment
Yeah,
in a young man's life because many times when you don't have a father, you tend to gravitate for a male figure.
yeah.
And hopefully that figure that you gravitate is someone positive. So I
Mm,
think when my advice and your advice might be different. But my advice to any single mother is just have positive role models around their children. And like I said, there are some women I have talked to marry someone, maybe not really care because if I have to have a male figure in my home. You don't have to go that far,
right.
but just make sure that they are exposed around positive people. Ezra Buffer says, great home training. I'm just now seeing other people. Sarah Cobb, thanks for coming on. She says, praise the Lord. Bishop Barolo says, praise the Lord, and God bless you. Praise the Lord. Thank you all for joining. It's my turn now. Uh, I just read, those who are on here, I just read a portion of your bio, and I'm going to go ahead and read some more of it before we end the program because I think it's a tribute to how successful you can be. And one of the things you said, I think is important is that you were brought up in church. Church is fundamental in a lot of people's lives,
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
and that is so important because it gives you a foundation. It gives you a basis. It gives parents the direction to make good choices because you can come up in a home with a father and have a father that's an alcoholic, a drug addict, a pusher. Just because you have a father in the home does not equate to a successful, mature growth.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about because I had a
Well,
lot of people, a lot of comments, and I want those who are here feel free to share your comments because I had a lot of people talk with me about the program on last week. They were a lot of questions, a lot of comments. Oftentimes, people will comment after the program,
yeah.
but they won't share those comments on the program. And if you have a question or a thought, there's someone else that may have that same question, that may same thought. And I want you, we're transparent. I have no problem being transparent. As I said on last week, I came up without a father, and I did gravitate toward different male role
Mhm.
models. But I also had a spiritual background because I had some people that was kind of shady in my past. That
Mm.
in the area. These guys were, they were drunk, drug addicts. They murderers, gangbangers, things like that. But being in the church atmosphere, it kind of gave me a little more of a conviction to do. Now I wasn't saved, uh, you know, at a real young age. And so there's a lot of things, I had a little wild streak there, and there's some rebellion I had, even some resistance, by being brought up with a single mom, and there was some resentment toward her because, I wanted to make sure that I was being treated, in my mind, you're gonna treat me like a man, you're not gonna treat me like you treat my sisters. But a lot of that was in my mind, so I was kind of rebellious. I did a lot of rebellious things, but then later on in life, I pretty much made up for it because I kind of put my mom through it, but I'm so glad God gave me a chance. God gave a second chance and gave me a chance to turn that around. So people who know me and knew my mom said, "Boy, they're pretty close," but they don't know the story. They don't know the beginning of the story. They know the end of the story. But
Mm.
I thank God that it wasn't until really I received uh, God into my life that I
Right.
realized that what I was doing. So
Mm.
I think that's an important part.
And by you speaking, it reminded me of something because you talked about the challenges, and I found out that as I got older and wanted to give back to the community or want to give back to these young men, a lot of mothers are apprehensive. They're overly protective, which is
Mm.
good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good because nowadays it's hard to find a good man that really that really be a man
So
nowadays. But with that, when you do find one though, and I tell mothers, let your sons, let them help your sons.
hmm
I find some of my greatest challenges is mothers don't want to let go of their sons to listen to me. I mean that, and it amazes me because I'm trying to help them, but and I understand the overprotectiveness, but sometimes it goes too far. They're overprotective. And again, nothing. Again, I can't. All I can do is advise and help. But sometimes there's been young men and their mothers would not allow me to help them. And I said, Lord, help Jesus, help Jesus.
right, right. And you know that they need the help. But I think it's because the times we're living in. Now I kind of hear something in the background. I don't know if you're moving anything, wherever it is kind of picking it up in the mic.
Oh,
I don't know if you're moving your hand or wherever it is kind of picking up in the mic. But there many mothers are, some are overprotective and some are not protective enough.
hmm,
And that becomes a problem because, as we say, there's so much that's going out there that in society, with the boy, with with Boy Scouts, or, different things, leadership, and there are people who actually prey on
right, right.
mothers, single mothers, and mother, they have to be aware that they do have to be aware. So there's so much out there, but I think has to be a balance because some mothers can be overprotective, and that overprotective does not allow the young man to be a man. You got to fall, you got to hurt, you got to cut yourself. You can't run to that child every time he hurts himself. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So those are some of the things I've seen parents that they're so concerned about their child that they don't want them to get hurt. They want don't want it to happen to them. But sometimes you got to get some bruises. Shiva said, "Praise the Lord, I'm watching. Thank God. Thank you for watching." Uh, what's the topic? The topic is men being raised without a father in the home. Men being raised without a father. Again, those who are watching, feel free to share. I see a couple of shares, a couple who have already shared. Feel free to share. Uh, Bishop Morello says, I agree with Bishop's comment where he needed to heal. I can relate to this because the body of Christ, which is our family, hurt is hard to swallow, and I was one who harbored broken trust. I had to allow God to heal me in order to move on. Thank you for sharing with us. A lot of people have been wounded. A lot of people have been hurt. A lot of people are resentful. Many times I found out, Bishop, is that in a home where there may have been a father one time and there's a divorce,
Right.
sometimes the young men will blame the mother for it, and so he can cause her life to be miserable simply because he's not understanding why we broke up. And sometimes it's called displaced aggression. You're angry and you don't know who to
Right.
be angry with, and
Mhm.
so you're angry with the closest person to you, and that mother that all the resentment, that anger, the bitterness is toward that mother. And I've dealt with a lot of mothers who have been extremely hurt because of that. What can they do? And so I think and I will say this right here: uh, don't be afraid to get counseling.
Oh,
Don't be afraid to get counseling, uh, and be relationship counseling, because there's a lot that the child doesn't understand. There may be some things that you don't understand, especially when a mother's trying to do her best, and it seems like the child's rebellious. And so a lot of times I've seen where mothers have sent the son back to his father, knowing the father was not a good example, but simply because she couldn't handle him. And so I would encourage you, maybe possible that you may have to see a counselor before you do it, because you never want to put your child in the hands of what I hate to say, unfit father just for the sake that it be a man, because he could be a man, breath and britches, he may not be the best example of a father.
and that's what you just said is very important because I know when I had my anger to God again, I didn't hate God. I just was angry with him,
Good.
if I'd have had counseling, that would have helped me. And
Right.
matter of fact, we were against counseling. You don't go to you go to God. God is your wonderful counselor. And He will counsel everything. Well, no, that's not always true. We need to talk to somebody. I had to talk it out, and I had to really. I struggled, and I wish I'd have done it sooner. It would have helped me in my future years if I'd have done it sooner in my life, but I didn't.
Mhm.
But thank God it is what it is. But I'm saying things would have been a lot easier and better for me if I had took some counseling, some good counseling. Not everybody can't counsel either, but some
It's true.
good counseling sessions. I take counsel. I tell people I'm not afraid. I'm transparent. I take counseling now. My wife and I, we have counseling every 2 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been married. I've been married. We'll be celebrating 45 years this year. But
45
there's
years.
things in my past
Mm-hmm.
that comes out when I counsel that causes me to act the way I'm acting even to today. And so,
Right.
seriously, I never found that out if I hadn't had counseling.
Yeah. I'm glad that you said that, because we often have talked about that on some of these topics, that people don't realize the importance of counseling. I had someone call me just today, a couple wanted me to counsel them. They've been married 22 years, and they're saying, "Hey, we need some help." And I said, first of all, I congratulate you for reaching out,
Yeah,
because too many people are afraid to reach out for counseling. And I think counseling is one of the best things you can do, because we all have our limitations, and a person who is trained in the area, you know, uh, plus you have to see things from a different viewpoint.
right, right.
If you're looking from a negative viewpoint, you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to grow. I shared with last week. As a matter of fact, I was sharing someone just this week when I was in grad school. We had to do a mandatory 8 weeks counseling session,
Mhm.
and I said, I only went because I had to. If I had a choice, I wouldn't have went. But after the second or third session, I mean, it was very beneficial to me. I found myself open up and expressing things. And as you counsel, things would come up that some things we have in our subconscious that we're not even aware of
Right, right.
as affecting our behavior, our thought patterns, our attitudes. And so counsel would help you to address those. Now, you're the second one that the guest I had on last week shared with me as he got older, he experienced counseling as well.
Mm,
And so I think that it's good that counseling is being more acceptable because a lot of times people have emotions, they don't understand what is the source of those emotions, where it come from. Treva says, I'm one of those single moms. I have 4 sons. Their father never married me, but he was involved with another woman who he
mm.
married, had other children, but he only spent some time with them. And so thank you for sharing that with us, Treva. And I'm sure your boys are doing well, and I think it's a blessing. But I do think too, when one of the parents are in church, I think that makes a big a difference. And
Yeah.
Treva, you've been in church, I'm sure that made a difference. And there are a lot of young men that are hurt. I'm going to say this right here.
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of young men that are hurt. There are a lot of young men that are bitter. And when they're hurt and they're bitter, they strike out. They have
Mhm.
anger issues, and those anger issues have to be dealt with. If the anger issues are not dealt with, then that child that there is a possibility, a greater possibility that child is going to end up in jail, that he's
Mhm.
going to end up in drugs because he has unresolved anger issues. Sometimes he may not be able to understand what's going on. Sometimes he may be resentful of authority figure. So I think it's good if you see any of those characteristics displayed in your child. There are services out there that are available. I would just go to your school, your social worker. There's a lot of agencies out there that will give you the support that you need. So I think it's so important. And many times a single parent mom, if there's a mom out here, you're struggling with your child, there may be a possibility that you need some support yourself because I can remember my mom saying, Lord, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this child. I mean, she was not playing, and I did things and I asked myself, why in the world did I did it? And I imagine it may have been a certain amount of anger, a certain amount of resentment, but and so it became heavy on her. Sometimes if there's a single mother out here, feel free to get counseling. Call me and I'll refer. Matter of fact, I tagged some therapists on here. If you're watching this and you've experienced some of this, right, as a therapist, if you're watching, please feel free to chime in on here and give us your advice, your opinions, and what your thoughts are, because I'm sure there are a lot of therapists that have dealt with this right here. And when we do assessment, many times we do assessment, we assess their background, and certain things. So a lot of times that can be a recurring cause, not having a father home. So you were in church since you were 9 years old. Was there ever time as that you found yourself being rebellious, not having a father at all?
I wouldn't say rebellious. Again, my hatred was to God, and since I hated God, and since that I was mad at him, angry at him, I didn't. I mean, I didn't hate God as such, but I mean, I hated what had happened to my father, and I blamed God for it. I guess was I blamed the God why you killed my father. I think my biggest issues was just trying to was mainly just coming to reality. What I mean by that is that the reality of knowing that my father is gone, he passed, and I have to move on. That's why I say counseling is good, because what I do at our church, I kind of catered. Thank God to that. He gave me a ministry that because of my experiences, I've been able to help other young people, young men, go through their struggles when they're in the only when there's no father in the home. And so I pull them aside, I talk to them, and that's the key thing, is talking to them and listening to what they have to say, but also having the right words and guiding them down the right way. I've learned that just to give people that opportunity, and God has blessed me in that area.
Yeah, so your personal testimony then becomes powerful because not,
Yes.
and that's why I wanted to read your bio, because listen, that there are those that feel like, I'm doomed to fail because I don't have a father. That doesn't have to be the case. You cannot have a father and be successful. We can do anything through Christ. Treva again says, yes, if it was for God and taking them to church all the time, they're respectful and love me and their children, which they take care of their children and spend quality time with them. And so one of the things I found out, and you can tell me, I determined that my father was alive at the time, but I determined within myself that I would be the best father that I could be. Now, some people say, how can you be a good father um, without having a good example? Well, I believe that God can give you the wisdom to show you how to be the best person. And I think God has blessed me, and I not only have I been a good father to my child, but I've have been allowed to invest in other young men to help them. And I have
Mhm.
some young men. The mom this day said, my son wouldn't be where he is today without you.
Mhm.
But God can teach you and show you, but also you do see you mirror and you see other
Right.
images. You see other people who are successful. That's just like business. I didn't have to be brought up in a home with an entrepreneur to understand business practices. By watching someone who's been successful in business, then I can learn to replicate that. So by watching other men who have been successful, that allows me to be able to replicate the process and to be a better example. God bless Sister Jamie says, young man is so true about counseling or therapy. I had a friend that lost a parent at a young age, and then he lost two other caregivers. I think he was quite angry with God most of his adult life. He did
Mhm.
not realize that women, wives in his life knew there was a problem that he had not admitted to. As a pastor, he still did not get it right. Issues are still there. He tries to hide. Thanks for sharing that. That's so true.
Yeah.
Men can choose to respond in a number of ways. Unfortunately, I've seen some men that are just bitter toward women,
Mhm.
especially if they're in a home where the father leaves and feel like that the mother was responsible. They find themselves being bitter toward the mother, and many times they're bitter toward relationships that they have.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that? Tell me about that.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, you are a product of your life and experiences, and they'll take it out. I mean, sometimes they don't mean to do that, but that's what they were taught. I mean, that's all they know, and so they're going to respond to that. And that's why I try to in my church with our young men that are in single parent homes, mothers raising them. I try my best to be an example to them and help them and talk with them, and I make it my business to talk with them. I mean, I don't just wait, and I think that's what we need. We need more men that will do that. I mean, we need more men who will step up, not just to help their own families, but 'cause it takes a village to raise a child. And I
So
think
true.
sometimes we just look at our, yes, we have a responsibility for our own children and everything else, but then bring somebody else along too. And
That's
we have
right.
so many families out there, single parent families, women out there trying to do their best. And God knows, man, I'm very sympathetic to women, single mothers, because I grew up in that, and I know how hard it is, and the challenges there are there. And one of the things I had in my mind, I said I don't like to see anybody taken advantage of. And all my life, I said I want to help my mother so that people won't take advantage of her. And so I became successful with that in my mind. I'm going to do the best I can to be the best father, the best man, the best person that I can. So I help my mother, and so that I could let my mother know that she did a good job in raising us and doing the best she can. But I'm telling you, it wasn't easy.
Mhm.
8 and 9, well, really 9 came along, but raising up with our family, there was times we didn't have food to eat, but God always made a way. There was times we didn't have clothing, and I'm the fourth child. Lord knows I had it hard because it was hand-me-downs to me, and then I was smaller than one in the family, and the males, and so everybody else got new clothes but me. I got hand-me-downs. I mean, I was a
I
I was
mean,
a Urkel. I was a Urkel before there was an Urkel suspenders. The
right,
pants.
right, right. Like clothes hanging off of you. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
patches wasn't in style, but I know about patches, and I know about having holey socks. And
I know
hold
about.
them under and putting cardboard and oh, believe me, I know about all that. But those were the things that helped me to realize I could be a better person. I could do better. And my mother taught us that no matter what you have, make sure it's quality. You may not have the quantity, but make sure it is quality. Our clothes is always clean. It may not have been the best. So my mother instilled that in us. And so that's why I say to all those out there, and not just the men out there, but anybody, you see a young man out there, they need help. These young men from single families need help. And sometimes it could be a family with a father in there, but the father's not doing their part. What I'm saying is we need to help one another. If it had not been for people helping me along the way, Lord knows, man, I would not be where I am today. All glory belongs to God and belongs to people that have helped me, took their time, the effort. We're all busy. We all want to do things for ourselves, but there's somebody out there that needs us. And I say this to people. God did not make us to be just to ourselves. Every experience we have in life and what we do is to help somebody else. I'll relate the story and I'll stop. But the clam, the little sand will get inside that clam and it's irritable. But that clam secures a chemical called nacre. And it coats, every time it coats that sand, it irritates them. And I say nacre is love. Every time we love, put love on things and love with people and everything else, and after a while, now notice it takes time, but over a period of time, that grain of sand wasn't taken out.
Mm.
We ask God, Lord, take us out. Notice some things we got to bear. That sand stays in there. It gets coated over a period of time. The longer it stays in there, the bigger it gets, and it gets to the point where it doesn't bother the clam anymore. Sometimes in life, we got to go through that. But God puts us through experiences. The pearl was that grain of sand, but now it's a valuable pearl. But the value of that pearl is not to the clam. It's somebody that takes out the clam or take out the pearl out of the clam. So a lot of times God will position us in our lives to help one another or put us through situations to help one another. It's not just for us. It will help us, but it's also for somebody else.
That's powerful because we all aware of the scriptures, and we know all things work together for good to them that love God and the call of purpose. The experiences that I had has undoubtedly made me a better person. Now I will say this right here. There is a balance that you at some point that I had to deal with because I had to decide, am I going to be super hard or I'm going to have a tender side. There was a part of me that especially being brought up in project, you had to be hard, man. You had to be hard because if you didn't, folks would run over you. So I had, but then there was that tender side because being brought. So I have a side that I'm probably more thoughtful than the average guy, and my friends say, I'm more. I think I'm more considerate, but I think that compassion side came from being raised up with the mother. So there's a side of me, but there's a side that can be hard. But it wasn't until I got saved that I really tapped into that tender side. Because before I got saved, it was 5 years I had never cried because again, you didn't want to show the weakness. But man, tears just started flowing once I got saved. And so then I found myself, I didn't have to have that hard, tough exterior. And so some guys, they have to find a balance, and so the mom has to teach them, or they have to learn somehow, or have some man speaking to them where they have a balance to, do you want to be too hard or do you want to be soft? And you don't want to be soft, that's for sure. Because if you be soft, especially, you're gonna get ran over, and so you're gonna toughen up. Either you're gonna toughen up or you're gonna get a good beat down.
Yeah. So, and I think what you're saying too, it depends on the timing. I mean, again, God puts us through processes for a reason, and like you said, it's very similar. I was hard. I was like Mr. Spock. I had no emotions because it was survival. It was survival for me, and I had to survive. But then again, as I got older, learning from my mother what she taught me. And then really what changed me, I got married. My wife, man, and she compliments me. She's, we're almost in different perspectives and different, but we brought coming together. She's helped me on that side, compassion. And I thank God for her. So God knew how to match me up with the right person to help me out. But again, sometimes that comes through processes, and it also comes through, what I mean by that, there's times that I had to be hard, or I had to be that it's survival. I had to survive. So again, that's why I talk to young men, because sometimes they're going through that. And so I try to walk them through that process or relate to them my process or what I went through. And then by doing that, they say, okay, and there's some young men that told me, he says, man, I didn't know what crime was all about till I talked with you. You helped me along that line. Because I didn't think men should cry, but I know you're a strong man, and I see you with tears in your eyes. I see you're emotional. I see that you could be strong. It was as strong as steel, but as smooth as velvet.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's something that we have to realize too. Is men are taught not to cry, but I have I don't say I don't have no problem crying, but if I have to, I will cry. I was preaching at the funeral, and of course I had sunglasses. People saw the sunglasses, because I knew that when it comes to funerals, that's an area that I'm very sensitive. And the thing about it is I do grief and loss counseling
Yes.
seminars on grief and loss, but sometimes God will allow you to experience
Right.
those things so you can be more effective in what you're doing. But uh, I went through tremendous grief on Friday, but God just came through and gave me a peace.
Yes.
At a certain point, the guy gave me the peace, but there was a point when I had to cry,
Right.
and
You,
so
you have to get it out. You have to get it out.
exactly.
Jesus wept at
Mhm.
Lazarus' funeral, and he knew he was going to raise him from the dead. So the
Right.
weeping wasn't because of so much emotion, but we are still emotional beings. We got to get it out of us.
And
So
I'm gonna ask you a question because I know some. But let me address what Treva said. Then I'm gonna ask you a question. Treva said, "Amen. I believe that also men need to get with these young men who are doing things not about relationship, because thank you, Treva, especially in the church.
yes,
Where are they gonna go to if they don't go in the church? God bless you, brother Yaki. Um, good seeing you. Thanks for joining." One of the things I do think, and some ladies on here, they can. I'm just speaking from my perspective. You cannot have a house full of men and women and allow the young ladies to just run over the guys,
no,
because that is going to be detrimental to him.
Mhm.
There has to be a balance. If he's afraid to do it because women are controlling him, there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance, because then he's not going to know how to effectively deal with it comes to women. So I've seen houses when there's a lot of maybe one boy, one girl, and there's a simulation. He begins to act like what he sees.
right,
That's why it's important to have strong male role models, so they can have someone else that they can assimilate to, someone else that they can relate to. So I think I'll say it to those single parent mothers. That's something you just have to be aware of. They may not like hearing it, but that's the truth. Allow him to be a man. Allow him to grow. Allow him to hurt himself. Allow him to fall. Allow him to bust his head. And that might sound hard, because a father will say that boy gonna be all right. He bust his head. He gonna be all right. Now you don't want to be too callous, but man, I can't tell you how many times I busted my head, and man, I had stitches in my head, cut arteries in my knee, and you can't always just run to them. And sometimes people have to experience those pains, nicks and pains in life is part of a part of being grown. So that's what it is. So, and I think family members can take an interest. Uncles, I had uncles
Oh, yeah.
that when I got out of hand, I remember an uncle of mine. He was a teacher at Manual High School. He picked me up and took me over his house, and he just taught them. He didn't
Mhm.
bash me, but he said, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?" And I was angry. I guess I did have a little anger. I
Yeah,
was angry.
oh, yeah.
So I may not know why I was doing it,
Mhm.
but then again, I was just used to having my way too. That's a problem too. I was used to having my ways, and so he would take me aside and just talk to me. So. I'm encouraging those uncles. I'm going to say straight. If you're an uncle and you see someone, don't wait to be asked.
Right. Yeah.
Don't
Step in.
if you see a child that has challenges, offer to reach out to them. Offer to do something with that child. And you can make a world of difference.
Totally agree. Yep. You can never do too much.
Sir. Okay, I'm going to finish reading some more of this dynamic bio. It says, in addition, he served as president of the Boeing track team, as a member of the United States Corporate Athletics Association Board of Directors, where he was inducted into U.S. CAA Hall of Fame, outstanding athlete and contributor to corporate wellness. Prentice is very active in his community and serves as his Tacoma Ministerial Alliance organization as director and currently as the secretary. He is a member of the Tacoma NAACP, the A. Phillips Randolph Organization, the Political Destiny Organization, the Tacoma Urban League, and several other community organizations. He serves as a volunteer coach for the Todd Beamer High School track team from 2003 to 2006. He founded several mentoring and tutoring programs in Tacoma for the youth, including Youth for Christ, Black Achievers Program, and Apprentice Learning Program. He is also a certified arbitrator for the American Arbitration Association. I used to be an arbitrator, believe it or not, for the Better Business Bureau.
Okay.
Loved it. Loved
Good.
it. And I think for some time they cut the program. I didn't have time or something like that because you had to have a commitment. But I really love that. I can do a program on that because that was pretty interesting. Becoming an arbitrator because we arbitrated. I can make the decision if a person to make the deal to give them a new car, give them some money, or not.
Mm.
So it's always good. I'm going to say it's right. It's always good to treat people nice.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
judge a book by its cover. I remember one time, I'm kind of getting off the subject now, and that's what happens when you get a little bit older. You get off the subject, so bear with me. You know, I was an arbitrator, but I'm sitting outside waiting for the next case. And so I speak to a guy, he looks at me, didn't want to speak, just mean as he could be. And so I'm trying to be nice. And then they said, next case, guess what? He's in there and I'm his arbitrator.
Mm.
And if you saw the expression on his face, needless to say, I wasn't as good to him as I would have been had he not had a negative attitude.
Mm.
Because of his negative attitude. So you always want to be kind to somebody because you just never know what a person has. We judge people, you just never know how that person you pass by may impact your life. Okay, Housing Club. Let me see. As the pastor, let me see. I'm trying to figure out where I left off at. Okay, let me see.
Arbitrator.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. As a pastor, Great Christ Temple Church, Suffering Bishop Princess Johnson helped to launch 3 new churches from ministries who were members of Greater Christ Temple Church. He also initiated improvements to the church facilities, governance, and organizational structures, strategic plans for future land development of low-income housing complexes, senior citizens facility, and an educational building where initiated and pursued. A new church logo was revealed and implemented in 2019. An internal church restructuring took place, focusing on discipleship and succession planning for the future. Printer and his wife Loretta have been married since 1978. Together, they have 4 grown children, whom all reside in Tacoma area. They also have 10 grandchildren and 1 great grandchild. Prentice gives, and this is what I like most of all, Prentice gives all glory to God for his accomplishment and achievements in life. And I just thought that was important to add that because for some mother who was like my mother said, I don't know, I remember hearing my mom say, I don't know what I'm going to do with this boy. Just don't give up on him. Whatever you do,
Yes.
don't give up on him.
That's
Okay,
right.
I don't know if Loretta said, Trivia said, amen. I believe that also men need to get with these young men who are doing things, not knowing about relationship with others. And really, we need men to teach young men how to have relationships
Right.
because some young men, if they brought up without a father, then they try to overcompensate. Then what they find themselves trying to do is when it comes to females, they try to compensate, try to be a stud, try to just prove their manlyhood, and that's not how it's done. Let me see. Like we lost him for a while. We'll see when he comes back on. Bishop Barello says, strong, controlling, dominating women are different versus strong women of good God who are praying women that are led by God. They hold the home together. And I agree with you. Thank you for sharing that with us, Bishop, because I agree with you. There is different. There's some women who are strong and domineering, but there are some women who are strong and know how to make a difference in life. And there is a difference. I think there is a difference, and we should be able to recognize the difference, because a woman can be strong without being domineering. So I don't want anyone to think that we felt any otherwise. But again, I want those on here to share. We're just about ready to wrap this up. If you have any questions for the guests or myself, feel free. If you a single mother out there and you like to be a guest on here, because I do want to hear, we've heard from men who came up without a father. If there's some women who want to come on here, tell us your experience about raising young men without a father. Will said, "I was devastated by my father not being around." Thank you for sharing that. And there are a lot of men that have been devastated. It is devastation, as we talked on last week. A lot of things you have to figure out for yourself. If you don't have a male role model, you have to figure this out, as they say, on the fly. You just have to figure certain things out, unless you're blessed to have people. And some people are able to figure out, and some people make mistakes. And so if you are a male out there and you have opportunity to, God places someone in your life, please make a difference in their lives. I've had parents tell me that my son would have been in jail. I'm sure my son's life would have been different had not you been involved, have you not taken interest. And I thank God that now have I been able to take an interest. My wife and I both have been able to take an interest, not replacing anyone, but just adding to it, adding to the family structure. Sometimes just inviting some young men to your home and let them see how you and your wife interact. That can be positive, so they can see a healthy relationship. People have to see a healthy relationship or know what a healthy relationship is. Um, I had a client that I was doing couples counseling, and they admit that he was slapper. And he told me, he said, well, his dad slapped his mother, his grandfather slapped his grandmother. He thought that was natural, so he couldn't understand why he messed with the wrong one, because I'm not having this right here, and he couldn't understand why she was not dealing with it. And so we have to have positive role models. We need strong, positive male models to just be an example. And so I don't know if there are any pastors who are watching this right here. Please share this and share with your pastor. What is your church doing? How is your church addressing the single? I think that the church should address every need uh, that's out there. Some churches are dealing with drug counseling. Some are dealing with emotional issues. But we can't just run and shout in the church. I enjoy praising God. I was praising God at church on yesterday, thanking God for the joy of the Lord is my strength. But we can't just stop at that. We've got to be able to reach people where they're at, and that's one of the purpose of this program, is that it gives me an opportunity to reach out to you and allow you to address issues. If there's some things that you feel that you'd like to see address on the program, please feel free to let me know. Inbox me, call me, let me know, reach out to me, let me know. We have some programs. I've had some that have reached out, have already reached out to me about some topics, and we're working on those things right now. So again, if there's something that you feel that you want to address, feel free to do that. And again, please share your comments in. Okay, we got. Look like we just got Bishop just about on. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I'm gonna do like what the saints say.
What's that?
That ain't nothing but the devil. Ain't that what we say everything? That ain't nothing but earlier when we were trying to come on, I kicked the plug out, and it took me about 8 minutes to get started, and that's what we say. Well, that ain't nothing but no, that wasn't the devil. That's just me kicking the thing out, but I was able to get started. But we're just about out of time. I want to thank you. You've been excellent, but I want to give you about 60 seconds to just give us your final thoughts. What's on your heart. Share with our listeners what's on your heart.
Well, basically, my final thoughts is this: is that and I know this is strictly men being raised without a father in the home, but it's really to everybody. I mean, but specifically for those that are fatherless, is that to help everybody. We're not going to live on this earth that long, and whatever you can do to help somebody. I'm seeing a lot of death here in the last few weeks and months and years with this pandemic and everything else going on. So what I suggest to all of you mothers out there, raise your children, do a good job, continue to do a good job raising your children. If you're a single mother, God is on your side. He'll always help you. One thing I'll say about my mother, she was a praying mother, and God always supplied our needs. And if there's a need for your young men and your young sons, God will provide a way. Ask God to find somebody that will help them along the way, and then work with them and listen to them. Nowadays, children, you got to listen to them and talk with them. Don't just beat them and scold them and get on them, but listen to them and find out what's really going on in their life. And when you do that, you'll find things will change. But have that listening ear, because these men are hurting, and these young men, they're not going to talk about it sometimes. Find somebody in the church or in the community that'll be a help, that there'll be a good support. And because you can't trust everybody, but find somebody that can. And then if you always need some help, call me. I mean, I got young people this day still call me, and I give advice to them, and I'm willing to work with them. So again, my information is out there, and I'm sure that Dr. Anthony Walden will give you my information if you need it. But I'm willing to talk to anybody and to help any way I can.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that with us. Sister Jamie, we have two more comments. So a lot of dominant women were dominant because the man left. It's a twinkle or trickle down effect, and that's so true. Some women feel like they have to be hard. If they're not hard, then the boys run. And there are some young men that will run over their parents. They will
Yeah.
run over, and it has to be addressed. And again, they may need counseling, and and so there may be bitterness, angerness, or resentment. God bless you. Said praying for you and your family, Bishop. I certainly solicit prayers. I thank God. Before I leave, I thank God for all the people who reached out to me in the loss of my sister. A lot of prayers, a lot of support, a lot of encouragement, and that is what helped us and what is helping us to make it through her and her family. Praise the Lord, everyone. Bless. And that's my wife, Sister Shirley. Thank you. Again, we're going to encourage you. If there's some young ladies on here that came up without raising boys by yourself, I like you to let us know. Inbox me. You like to be on the program, because I like to know what your experience are. Because let's say I want this program to be able to reach all facets of life and to just cover all issues. There's not an issue. I have not had an issue yet, Bishop, that I've shied away from.
All right.
I don't think I will. Hey, I don't. It's my turn now. It's your turn now. It's y'all's turn now. Everybody gets a turn on this program right here. So I want everyone to feel like it's your turn. And there's sometimes this is an avenue for people to express themselves, things that they may not feel comfortable sharing with other people. But I want everyone to feel like this is a platform where I can be transparent and share my thoughts and ideas. And I appreciate you, Bishop, being transparent. I'm looking forward to seeing you sometime in the future soon. Okay.
All right.
When I get your way, I may want you to take me to one of them seafood restaurants there in Washington. I hear Seattle and Tacoma, Washington have some of the best restaurants out there.
Yes, they do.
So I'm giving you a heads up right now. Okay.
All right. Thank you. It's my turn now.
All right, there you go. You got that far. So when I come, that's what I want to hear.
All righty.
Sister Walden said, thank you both. You're welcome. We love you. God bless all those on here. You might hear me. I'm telling people more and more, I love you. So if no one has told you today that they love you, know that I love you. God bless you. Have a blessed week. Be